a 19-year-old East German guard in a soldier's helmet hangs frozen in midair over the barbed wire of the Berlin border. His boots clear the steel by centimeters. His submachine gun is already sliding off his shoulder. On the western sidewalk, a press camera closes its shutter. Exactly once. It is August 15th, 1961. The man in that photograph is falling toward the west. He will land in under 2 seconds, and some part of him will stay above that wire for the rest of his life. His name is Conrad Schumann, a shepherd's son from Saxony, who has worn a uniform for barely 2 years. The world is about to celebrate him as a hero. What the world will not see, the letters from his own parents, quietly dictated by the secret police, the fear that follows him across 3 decades, and an orchard in Bavaria, 37 years from this jump, where the story ends and the photograph keeps going without him. This is Forgotten Europe, and I'm Tom. I must have seen this picture 100 times before I thought to ask what happened to the man in it. That question turned out to be the whole story. Today, the 2 seconds everyone has seen, and the life almost nobody has. 3 days before the jump, Conrad Schumann is asleep in a barracks in Dresden. In the early hours of August 12th, his unit is loaded up and moved north to Berlin. The caption the world will later put under his picture says soldier. The files say something more precise. Schumann is a Bereitschaftspolizist, a riot policeman of the East German Interior Ministry. Drafted as a teenager, trained in Dresden, 3 months of sergeant school in Potsdam, a shepherd by trade, from a village called Schochau, where his father keeps sheep. For border duty in Berlin, his pay rises by 30 East marks. Danger money. It brings him to 370 a month. On August 13th, Berlin wakes up to a border. Not a wall yet. That comes later. Coils of barbed wire, unrolled overnight through the middle of a city, guarded by young men with submachine guns. Schumann's post is the corner of Bernauer Strasse and Bernauer Strasse, and there is no stranger street in Berlin. The apartment houses stand in the east. The pavement in front of their doors lies in the west. In those first days, people climb out of those windows and drop into jump sheets held open by the West Berlin Fire Brigade. Television cameras film it. Crowds gather on the western side and stay all day, shouting across the wire at the guards. 2 words, over and over. Komm rüber, come over. Schumann stands in the middle of it, 19 years old, 3 days into the job that history will judge him by. Then, at the wire, he watches something he will describe for the rest of his life. A little girl has been visiting her grandmother in East Berlin. Her parents are standing on the western side, close enough to call out to her. The account he gave suggests only a few meters. The girl reaches the barrier. The guards turn her around and send her back into the east. Schumann later said that was the moment something in him tipped. If this is the state he is guarding, he does not want to hold the line for it. He starts drifting toward the coil of wire. He puts his boot on it, casually, the way a bored sentry might. Watchers on the western side notice that every time he does it, the coil sits a little lower. And then, according to the account that has survived, he leans toward a stranger on the western pavement and says it out loud, barely above a whisper. I am going to jump. He has just handed his life to a man whose name he does not know. If that man talks to the wrong side, Schumann is finished. Before we find out which way it breaks, one small thing. He trusted a stranger with everything. I am asking for a click. Subscribe. It tells me you want these files kept open, and you will be standing here when the bet is decided. The stranger walks away from the wire. He does not go to the east. He goes to the West Berlin police. What happens next is the part that never made the caption. The most spontaneous-looking escape of the Cold War is, in truth, a quiet operation involving a dozen people who never exchange a word with the man they are helping. The police bring up an Opel Blitz van and reverse it toward the wire, close to the corner. Then they open the rear doors and leave them open. No shout, no wave, just an idling engine and an open door pointed at a 19-year-old on the other side of the barbed wire. A message with no words in it. When you are ready, we are ready. A few meters away stands a photographer who has been watching Schumann for the better part of an hour. Peter Leibing, 20 years old, a trainee with the Hamburg picture agency Conti Press, sent to Berlin only the day before. He has already photographed Schumann pacing and smoking against a house wall and stepping on the wire. Bystanders have told him what the young guard whispered, so Leibing sets his Exacta camera with its 200mm lens on the spot above the coil, focuses, and waits. He has photographed show-jumping horses in Hamburg, and he knows the one lesson that matters now. You press the shutter the instant the animal leaves the ground, not after. One problem remains, and it is watching from across the street. Two other guards hold the opposite corner. Schumann cannot jump while they are looking, and they are always looking. The photographers solve it. Leibing and a second cameraman, Klaus Leenartz, swing their lenses away from Schumann and point them straight at the two guards. East German border personnel have standing orders not to let themselves be photographed from the west. The two men do exactly what their orders require. They turn away from the cameras and away from Schumann and walk in the other direction. For a few seconds, nobody in the east is watching him. Around 4 o'clock, Schumann takes 3 running steps and then jumps. Mid-air, he shrugs the strap off his shoulder and lets the submachine gun fall. A Soviet PPSH, the weapon he was issued to defend this border. It lands on western pavement. He lands astride behind it, keeps running, and dives through the open doors of the Opel Blitz. The doors slam. The van pulls away before the men across the street have fully turned around. A West Berlin policeman picks the gun up off the ground. That is the entire escape, roughly 2 seconds of it airborne. Peter Leibing gets exactly 1 frame. Schumann above the wire, the gun just leaving his shoulder. A 16mm film camera catches the same moment in motion, and Leenartz shoots his own frames a step to the side, but it is Leibing's picture that detonates. The next morning, a West German paper prints it across a full page. Within days, it is on front pages around the world, and it says exactly what the East fears most, without a single word. The men guarding this border do not believe in it. Even the guards are running. By the end of the year, New York's Overseas Press Club will name it the best photograph taken anywhere on Earth in 1961. A frame of a teenager, mid-air, caught between 2 countries. The 2 Germanys react to the picture in perfect opposition. In West Berlin, the head of the city's press office, a man named Egon Bahr, calls it a ray of light in the darkest week the city has known. In East Berlin, the state's newspapers simply pretend the frame does not exist. No denial, no counterstory, nothing. You do not argue with a photograph like that. You bury it. One of those countries celebrates him, the other one opens a file. On August 16th, 1 day after the jump, Schumann sits with the West Berlin police and gives a statement. That document still exists. You can read his account of the escape today in the records kept by Germany's Chronicle of the Wall Project. On paper, his new life looks clean. Refugee status, resettlement, freedom. The file on the other side of the wire reads differently. To East Berlin, Schumann is not a refugee. He is a deserter under arms, the first uniformed man to flee after the border closed, and the most photographed. And he is not the last, which is exactly what makes his case dangerous. In the weeks that follow, more guards go, and every one of them proves the photograph right. Research in the records of the Stasi, East Germany's secret police, published by the historian Martin Stieff, shows how hard the state came down on fleeing guardsmen in the year the wall went up. Desertion treated as treason against the state, cases pursued for years, and the pressure aimed where the deserter could still be reached. Not at the man himself, but at his family. Understand what that means in practice. A man who jumps the wire takes his body across the border, and nothing else. His parents stay behind. His brothers and sisters stay behind. Every one of them is now the relative of a traitor in a state that keeps lists. And every one of them can be visited, questioned, and leaned on. The deserter cannot be arrested anymore, but he can still be reached through the people he loves. The Stasi understood this perfectly. Schumann was about to find out how well. The West, meanwhile, wants a hero, and Schumann is spectacularly bad at being one. He gives his statements, he answers the reporters, and then he says the thing no publicist would let him say. He never considered himself a hero at all. He is a 19-year-old shepherd's son who saw a child sent back from a fence and decided he could not be part of the machine that did it. That is the entire speech. The photograph is larger than life. The man keeps insisting on being life-sized. Schumann settles about as far from the border as West Germany allows. Günzburg, in Bavaria, some 500 kilometers, about 300 miles, from Berlin. He works as a nurse. He meets a local woman, Kunigunde, and marries her in 1962. Later, he works in a winery, and from 1970 on, he stands at a machine for the carmaker Audi in Ingolstadt, setting tools, working shifts. A son, a house in the village of Kipfenberg. From the outside, it is exactly the life the photograph promised him. Then the letters start arriving. They come from his parents in Saxony, and they all lean the same way. Come home. It can be arranged. Nothing will happen to you. For a young man who left his whole family on the far side of a fence, the pull of those pages is enormous, and Schumann later admitted he was tempted to go. At one point, by his own account, it took a West German police officer to talk him out of it, because the officer understood what Schumann did not want to see. The offer was bait. Decades later, sitting in front of an interviewer, Schumann said it in one plain sentence. He had not known that the letters his parents were writing him were dictated by the Stasi. His own mother's handwriting, with the secret police standing behind the sentences. Every warm line composed to reel him back across the border, where a deserter under arms could be dealt with properly. Of everything in Schumann's story, that is the detail I cannot put down. They did not just take his country from him, they took the mail. Schumann stopped trusting the letters, which meant in practice, he stopped trusting the East to ever let him go. He avoided contact with anyone from over there, kept his village life small, and never fully shook the fear that someone might one day come to collect him. A fear of the Stasi's long reach that outlived the Stasi itself by every account we have. It did not need to be rational to be real at 3 a.m. There is one warm thread running through those years, and it comes from the photograph itself. Peter Liebing, the man who caught him mid-air, stayed in touch. In 1986, 25 years after the jump, the two of them met again at the corner of Bernauer and Bernauer Strasse. The photographer and his subject, standing on the exact pavement where the frame was taken, this time on the same side. They remained friends until the end of Schumann's life. 3 years after that reunion, the corner itself made history again. On the 9th of November, 1989, the Berlin Wall opens. First as a rumor, then as a crowd, then as a fact. Schumann goes to the one place we would expect, Bernauer Strasse, in the West Berlin district of Wedding, a short walk from where he jumped. He watched people pour through the border he once guarded, and he described his reaction without any polish at all. Seeing it, he said, he had to cry. He welcomed it plainly. He said it made him deeply glad that East Germans could finally travel and see the West that had been withheld from them for 28 years. And then he said the sentence that reframes the famous photograph. Only since the 9th of November, 1989, he said, had he felt truly free. Hold that against the picture. The caption under the frame said he leapt into freedom in 1961. The man in the frame says freedom arrived 28 years later, on the night the thing he jumped over stopped existing. He spent 2 seconds crossing the border, and 28 years waiting for the border to stop crossing him. The fall of the wall gave him back his family, in principle. In practice, the fear did not fall with the concrete. By the account in Germany's standard biographical record of the East, Schumann remained afraid of returning to the East long after the border was gone. The habit of watching his back had outlasted the reason for it. When he did travel to Saxony, the homecoming was not the photograph in reverse. Among his old colleagues and around his home village, not everyone greeted an icon. Some still saw the man who had put on the uniform and then jumped out of it, and old frictions kept smoldering. Schumann was honest about the result. He felt more at home in Bavaria than in the place he was born. And still, he never called the jump a mistake. Interviewers asked him versions of the same question for decades, and his answer held, he did not regret it, not the jump. What he carried was everything the jump had cost, and those are not the same thing, however often they get printed as if they were. There is no way to rush this last part, and I am not going to try. On the 20th of June, 1998, Conrad Schumann took his own life in his orchard in Kipfenberg. He was 56. He had been struggling with depression. The reunited Germany he had waited 28 years for was not yet 8 years old when he died. The record does not say the photograph killed him, and neither will I. Depression is an illness, not a caption. But the record of his life does say this much: the fear outlasted the border. The wall came down in a single night. What it had done to the people who crossed it took longer to fall. The photograph, meanwhile, kept living a life of its own, the way icons do. And it is a strange one, worth the detour. The second photographer at the wire that day, Klaus Leenartz, spent years claiming the famous frame was his and selling it under his own name. It took Peter Liebing a court order in 1981 to make him stop. Liebing never got rich off it either. He had taken the picture as a trainee, so the rights sat with his agency. When that agency went bankrupt, the tax office seized the entire archive of negatives against unpaid debts. And in 1989, the same year the wall fell, the negative of the jump was auctioned off and ended up in Hamburg's State Archive, where it sits today. The most reproduced escape in Cold War history, passed around like furniture in an estate sale. Peter Liebing outlived the man he photographed by 10 years. He spent his career at a Hamburg newspaper, and to the end, he spoke of that single frame at the Bernauer Strasse as the picture of his life. One press of the shutter, learned from show-jumping horses, that outweighed everything else he ever shot. And still the frame kept climbing. In 2000, German television told Schumann's story under a title that gets the whole arc into 6 words: The Flight That Never Came to an End. In 2009, a life-size sculpture of the leaping guardsman went up near the spot where he landed. And since 2011, the picture itself belongs to UNESCO's Memory of the World Register. One teenager's 2 airborne seconds, filed alongside the documents of the wall's rise and fall as part of humanity's permanent record. So look at it one more time, knowing what it cost. A young man hangs above a coil of barbed wire. The helmet is still on his head. The gun is already leaving his shoulder. because he has decided there is nothing on either side of this wire he is willing to shoot. Nothing has landed yet. No fame, no file, no letters. For those 2 seconds, Conrad Schumann is precisely what the caption says: free. He never regretted the jump. He said so to the end, and the record backs him up. The weight he carried was never the 2 seconds in the air. It was the country behind him and how long its shadow stayed. The shutter closed once, in the summer of 1961. The picture has stayed open ever since.